Hey friends, so as most of you know, I recently moved to Tokyo from Kyoto for a new job as a full-time content creator. By the way, for those of you who are new here, my name is Amber. I'm originally from New York, but I've been living in Japan for the past 3 years. So yes, visa things. Before we start, please note that I am not a visa lawyer. I'm just sharing my own personal experience and how I got my work visa. Please take it for entertainment purposes only. So yeah, now that the caveating's out of the way, let's get into it. Technically speaking, everyone does apply for their own visa, but usually your hiring company will kind of walk you through it and tell you what documents you need, or you'll get a lawyer to help you with that. So yeah, step one of getting a work visa is finding a company that wants to hire you. I currently work for a small international company that's based in Tokyo, and when they hired me for the job, they let me know that they had never sponsored a visa before and they had no idea how to do it. So they basically said the job is yours if you can apply for your own visa. And I also had no idea how to apply for a visa, but I would have done anything at this point to get this job. I really needed it. I really wanted it. And I know these kind of experiences, they don't come around too often. So yeah, I set out to apply for my own working visa with little to no knowledge on how it works. Cue the Google search marathon. And I found very little information about how to apply for your own work visa online. There were a few websites that list the documents that I needed to collect, but honestly, they weren't even the full list. And I didn't know that. I thought they were the full list. And luckily, so luckily, my friend and coworker at my part-time job in Kyoto had recently gone through the work visa process using a lawyer, and she was able to tell me everything that I actually needed, which was way more than I was able to find on the internet. Thank goodness for her. So that's really why I'm making this video, just in case you don't have that Kyoto coworker friend. So I needed to collect documents from myself and also documents from my company. There was a list of 20 documents in total that I collected. So I'm gonna put the list of documents here somewhere. So pause and take a screenshot if you'd like. And then I'm gonna go into detail about all the documents. So number one, the most important document that I needed was the change of visa form. And this I found on my local consulate website. So I'm from New York. I used the New York consulate website. The form that I needed was a change of visa since I was changing from a student to a work visa. If you're starting from scratch and this is your first visa, then you're going to need a completely different application, but I think it's also found on the consulate website, so I'll link that down below too. That process might be a little different than mine though. Again, I only know about the process that I went through, which was changing from a student visa to a work visa. The work visa that I was applying to, by the way, it's called, I don't even really know what it's called. It's like, okay, so the visa that I got is actually called the Engineer Specialist in Humanities International Service Visa. So you're gonna have to figure out which visa you need and check that off on your application. That's just the one that I needed for my situation, so yours might be different. So this form was actually a little tricky to fill out. So I had to fill out the first 4 pages and my company filled out the last page. We actually did this wrong at first and the consulate office called me, told me how to fix it. And it was really difficult because my company is fully remote and it's international. So I had to mail this application back and forth to my company. I also had to make sure that they stamped it with the official company seal. Everything has to be stamped. Do not forget the stamp. They love stamps here, especially in the government offices. Stamps. So after the form, the next thing that I needed was my official college diploma. And I'm actually not sure if you do need the official one. Like my coworker friend, she said she did need it. But now talking to other people, I'm hearing that you maybe don't need it. But anyway, I got my official college diploma and I didn't have that with me here in Japan. So I had to have my parents mail that to me. So thank you, parents. The 2 easy ones I needed were my passport and my current residence card. So this is something that I didn't find on the websites, but that my friend told me I needed. And I was a student at a Japanese language school at the time, so I needed my student records. So I needed a record of my attendance and of my grades. Don't worry if your grades aren't great. They don't have to be good to get a visa. You just have to be able to have the records. I also needed to show that I passed the JLPT during my time at language school, and luckily I had passed the N3. So I was able to order my official results from the JLPT website and they delivered it to my house. A bonus extra thing that my lawyer having coworker friend told me would be helpful but isn't necessary is a letter of recommendation from my teacher at Japanese language school in Japanese. So I asked my Tanin sensei, my head teacher, for a letter of recommendation for my visa, and she wrote me one. Honestly, it was a little difficult to get from my school. I had to pay for it. I had to have like a meeting with my teacher to get the recommendation. I was kind of surprised at like how much paperwork I had to do just to get a letter of recommendation from my teacher. But anyway, I got it. Another thing I needed that I didn't know until my lawyer having friend told me was a letter of motivation. So I had to write a letter to the consulate describing why I wanted to change to a work visa, why I wanted to live and work in Japan, specifically in this role, and how I would continue my studies. It's in English, and it's just about like one page typed up, printed out, and stamped with your seal or signed with your signature if you don't have a seal. Luckily, my friend, she showed me hers, so I kind of had an idea of like what to write, and I wrote my own version of it with my experiences and stuff. That was easy, but I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for her. So I don't think I have my letter anymore, but basically I just wrote like why I love living in Japan and like why I think I'm a good person to be living in Japan. Like I also think I wrote about like that I'm going to continue my language school studies to reach my goal of passing the N2. That's what I wrote. Okay, the next one was a little difficult. I needed my new job contract in both English and Japanese. My company had only given me an English job contract. They aren't Japanese and they don't speak Japanese, so I didn't have a way of getting a Japanese contract from them. So what I did was I basically told them about it. I was like, hey company, I need this document. I know you can't really provide it for me. Can I make one? You check it and then stamp it and then like we'll use that. And they were just like, yeah, sure, sounds good. So basically I just searched in Japanese like job contract template and I found one that looked good and I just filled it in with my details in Japanese. It needed like my salary, my name, like a bunch of job contract information stuff. I just basically copied what was on my English job contract and I just wrote it in Japanese. Then I sent it to my company. They like checked it and stamped it and sent it back to me, and I used that as my Japanese contract. Yeah, had to do that on my own. I'll link that template down in case anyone else is in that situation. I hope you're not in that situation and that your job can make you your own Japanese contract, but yeah, if you need it, down there. Oh, another extra thing that I got at the recommendation of my friend was a recommendation letter from my boss at my part-time job in Kyoto, along with my job contract, so that they knew that that letter of recommendation was legit. This was, again, not necessary. It's just kind of an extra thing to help your application. And I was ready to do any extra things to make my application as good as possible. So yeah, luckily my part-time job boss was super awesome and he wrote that out for me. In these letters of recommendation, by the way, they're just kind of saying what like a great and reliable person you are. I don't remember the details, but yeah, I was just saying she's a good person, give her a visa, something like that. So that's all the documents that I had to collect for myself. After that, I had to collect a bunch of documents from my company. So I basically just sent them a list of the documents that they needed to give to me so that I could submit it to the consulate office when I went to apply for my visa. I also told my company that they had to stamp everything. Again, they're not Japanese, so they're not like familiar with the official business stuff in Japan. So yeah, I was like, please stamp everything. I don't know if it all has to be stamped, but just in case. I was not about to have my visa rejected just because of a missing stamp. So the first document I needed for my company was called the Legal Records Total Table. Am I getting that right? Legal record total, yeah. Legal record total table. I don't exactly know what this is, but something important that we got wrong at first and we had to go back to the office and correct it was to make sure that it is not a copy. It should be the official document and it has to be a recent document within the past 3 months. When I asked my company for this, they were able to ask their accountant for it. And again, the stamp. Next was the company's 2022 financial statement. I was applying for the visa in 2023, so they wanted the financial statement from the year before. And this is basically just to show that they can afford to have you as an employee and pay your salary. Next, I needed the company details, and I actually did this one on my own too. So usually you can use like a brochure or pamphlet. We don't have those, so I just use the company website, and it's basically supposed to be it's basically supposed to show what your company does. So my company, we sell products, so I went to our customer like sales page and I took screenshots of that that. I ended up taking about 5 screenshots and I just printed them at the kombini and used those. Another document I needed from my company was type of work done by company. Basically, they just had to write about a 1-page document saying what the company does and how they make money. So my company wrote it just like on Google Docs in English, by the way. They didn't have to write it in Japanese, and they stamped it and they mailed it to me. After that, they needed 2 similar documents. One was called type of work the employee will be doing, and the other was about work location. So for type of work the employee will be doing, again, they just wrote up a Google Doc, like 1 page in English about what I was going to do for work, about my role, and about exactly why they needed me, a foreigner, for this role. So yeah, they needed to specify exactly why they needed someone who speaks English from the US to fill this position rather than a Japanese person. They kind of have to justify why they have to give me a visa and why I have to live here to work this role. And what about the work location? I was actually really worried about because my company is fully remote. We technically don't have an office. Usually you can just like take a picture of your work location, but my company wrote like a whole page about why we're remote and like why we need to be in Tokyo even though we're remote, like how we have to film commercials there and do meetings there and stuff like that. So yeah, that's all the paperwork I submitted. It was super scary waiting for the results of that visa. It was about 1 month after I had submitted all the paperwork that I had heard back from them, so 1 month of anxiety. And then one day I just got something in the mail from the immigration office saying the decision had been made and that I should go there to find out the decision. So they actually don't tell you via mail, you have to go there in person to receive your visa or to get rejected from your visa. So luckily when I got there, I was granted a 1-year working visa. I was so happy, so relieved, slightly disappointed because I did apply for a 5-year visa and I was only granted 1 year, but I have no idea how that works. It seems to be a mystery whether the visa gods are going to grant you like 1 to 5 years. I did have 3 years on my first visa. Unfortunately, I only got 1 this time. So yeah, I'll just have to renew it in 1 year, which is like annoying, but I heard it's much easier than the applying process. Thank gosh. Yeah, I don't exactly know why I only got 1 year. It's just kind of up to the visa gods how many years you get when you apply. I suspect it was because it was my company's first visa that they were sponsoring, so they kind of wanted to see how it goes. I was super proud of myself for doing this on my own. I am trying to craft my dream life while living in Japan, and it is a bit harder to do because I do have to consider visa things, but I am working on it, and this was a big step towards that. Please let me know if you're also working towards crafting your dream life in the comments so we can support each other. Let me know what your dream is. I would really love to hear about it. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, you might also find this one helpful here. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!